you, everybody. Before we kick off, let's do a quick show of hands. I know we're getting close to lunch. We need a little bit of a rev up. How many marketers out there were in the marketing role during COVID? There's a few. Good. What about in 2017 when we had to ditch mountains of brand reminders? Yes, I can see a few there. Thank you. What about back in the old days when we actually got to sit around a table with our agencies for a few days and come up with our own campaigns and our own images? Those people stand up, please. Please welcome the original marketing Mavericks. Thank you very much. But I do have some other marketing Mavericks on the stage with me today. I have lost my clicker, however. Here we go. There we go. So progress or pandemonium? We've just basically illustrated that back in the day, things were probably a little bit less chaotic than they are now in the marketing space. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? So we're going to explore that just a little bit. And for the visual among you, you will enjoy this image and go, yes, that looks really good. That makes sense to me. For the more detail-oriented, you'll go, what the hell is in those circles? And we will also discuss the pros and cons of AI. Before we move on and ask the panellists to comment, I just want to share a little disclaimer that the opinions expressed by the panellists are not necessarily their own or that of the company that they work for. In fact, they might just be here to provoke thought, reactions and positive change, kind of like marketing itself. So on that note, I'm going to welcome my panellists. Thank you, Darren, Rob and Beck for joining us. And what I'd love to hear from you is a very quick snapshot. What is the single most dangerous distraction from pharma marketer right now? Beck, do you want to start?
I do want to start, and I'm going to be quite controversial. I'm going to say AI and innovation.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
I'm going to say internal meetings and systems.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say the shiny new toy. So much like AI, I think making those strategic choices, is AI the right choice?
Absolutely. So not only are marketers a little bit they may be resource rich, but they are overwhelmed. We've got a lot of challenges and a lot of distractions. So how do we make sure that we don't put more pressure on budget, time and capacity? So what are the non-negotiables for a marketer? We're going to look at what a marketer has to be for the future. They're a storyteller, a system thinker, a data translator, a launch expert. As a group, we identified 6 key pillars that a future-ready marketer needs. Let's have a quick look at those pillars. I'm hoping none of them are a great surprise to you. But you can see here we have strategic agility, scientific fluency, customer centricity. There's certainly been a lot of emphasis on the patient piece. Launch excellence, digital dexterity, hello AI, and collaboration and influence, working outside our silos. So what I'd like to know now is I'm actually going to have a little poll now, and I think this is where the magic of my friends over there is, if you ask what is the biggest gap in your marketing team and their current skill set, just take a moment to do that. I think it'd be really interesting to see as a group what we think is the biggest gap in our marketing team. What do you think it's going to be?
I think it's going to end up as omnichannel, and I'm saying that a little bit late as the results start coming in, but that's probably it in digital dexterity for us.
Maybe from the last session, maybe ethical.
Interesting. Well, I'm not entirely surprised to see that digital dexterity and omnichannel is on that list. I come from an era where first entry into omnichannel was when we got the agency to lock a PDF and we sent it out. That's pretty cool. But many new marketers get excited by different channels and metrics and they lose the forest for the trees. So what I want to ask the panel is, how do we ensure the core fundamentals of marketing remain the anchor for data-driven strategies as the landscape shifts daily? Beck?
Yeah, and I'm not surprised by the response, actually. When this topic came up, the first thing I thought about, and I jumped on my high horse a little bit, I believe that marketers have actually forgotten how to market. And so I might upset a few of the marketers in the room, but I've had some amazing mentors throughout my career, and one thing that was really instilled was that the fundamentals are so important, and we need to anchor back and drive our decisions using those fundamentals. And I think that there's just this huge danger at the moment. We're working in an environment that's changing all of the time. There's more and more distraction. I think our role is getting broader and broader, but also there's so many exciting shiny new tools, things to play with. There's AI, there's technology, and I think that what we're forgetting to do is we're wanting to focus on the channels, focus on the execution, but we're not actually anchoring it back to the core, developing a really strong strategy. What are actually our priorities? And do these new channels and new advances in innovation and technology, do they actually support our priorities, or are they just really fun to do and sound really cool? So yeah, I really truly believe that we need to anchor back on those core fundamentals.
Thank you, Beck. Darren?
For me, I think it's very much around having a good foundation of not only those marketing fundamentals, but also understanding that strong ecosystem across the pharmaceutical industry. Our brand teams are driven and based around collaboration, so really understanding and having a strong understanding of each of their roles and functions. So regulatory, market access, medical, how that all builds in terms of your training plans, as well as then from a long-term strategic vision, how that all pieces together so that you work collaboratively from concept through to, expiration of your product, and how each of you can support that brand over that life cycle.
Rob?
Yeah, so if I think about the fundamentals, it comes down for me to strategy, I think, and it's something that we need to absolutely instill right from the get-go, that needs to be done well. And to get a bit more specifically, segmentation is something that I've not seen done well often, and it's really at the heart of strategy in terms of the classic STP, segmentation, targeting and positioning. And we need to do that for HCPs and for patients and think beyond an adoption ladder. Think beyond, did that doctor open an email 6 months ago? And really think about really good basis for what we segment our customers on. And then, of course, target. Based on your product, where should you be targeting your effort and resources? And then positioning of the product, of course, is fundamental. So for me, when I think about fundamentals, I think about strategy, and it starts with segmentation for me.
Thank you very much. Yes, definitely a foundation in plans, processes, metrics, strategic thinking, and avoiding the danger of technology and metrics driving the strategy rather than enabling it. So speaking of technology, we are in a world where AI is dominating, but we must keep a human element involved in our AI. AI is a powerful augmentative tool, but is not a decision maker. So the question I'll refer to Darren first is, how can marketers leverage AI from optimising content to accelerating decision making, but ensuring the human-centric skills like storytelling, empathy and connection don't get lost?
We've heard a lot about AI today. I think it's it's certainly the buzzword. We heard from Arthur, Michael just before as well, in terms of the role it can play, in terms of speeding up that journey in terms of knowledge, processing the information, understanding where your gaps are, accelerating that thinking process. We've heard from clinicians in terms of the role it plays in listening to the patient consultation and translating all of that to an outcome. Equally, from a marketer's perspective, understanding your gaps, where you can fill some of those things, accelerating that thinking process is really key. AI has a great tool. I think the next evolution for us is certainly optimising. The next generation uses AI as a search engine. It is no longer Google, it is AI. So are our websites optimised for AI? Does our information feed into that algorithm correctly? Can that system then process and provide that information to the patient, more importantly to the clinician? I think is really that opportunity for us to do better within that space.
Beck, can I ask you to answer the same question?
Yeah, and one thing that I read very early days when AI was launching, AI is a great content creator, but it's the human that gives it meaning. And I think that that's something that resonated with me, and I think we can apply it to some of the comments that were made earlier today. We really need to understand our target audience, and we need to understand our patients, we need to understand our healthcare professionals. I think we need to understand really what they need, what they want, what they feel, and I don't think AI can do that, and I think that's the role that we need to do. I love AI. I use it every day because I truly believe that it can make us more efficient. It can definitely help with speed, but I think that we just need to find the right balance between what we do as a human and then how we support what we do and become more efficient by using all of these amazing tools that we've got. I truly believe as well that you need to use AI. I think that for us as marketers, if we're not, I think we will get left behind because other marketers will become more efficient. So it's important, I think, that we understand technology, but we just need to harness it in the right way for it to actually have an impact that we're trying to have.
Absolutely. Rob, is there anything to add?
Yeah, some similar themes. So recently I inherited a brand, which is a fantastic brand, and along with it came a strategy and a target patient profile that we were really focusing on. And I thought, okay, this is kind of new to me. So I asked for the evidence. Where's all the evidence to back it up for this patient profile? Threw it into a AI tool and said, why is this the better brand compared to some of the others on the market? In the early stages, I was fascinated with what it came out with very, very quickly. It came out with beautiful, concise information. I hit it a bit harder to make sure it was referencing properly. I then hit it a bit harder to say, what about this group? What about this group? What about this group? So it was amazing the way it came out with the information. It was really, really helpful, really efficient. But then when I took a deeper look at one of the recommendations, some of the recommendations were great, but there was one recommendation that basically said you should target this particular really, really small niche patient. And when you dug deeper, it was based on one case, one patient in one clinical paper. So like you were saying, you need to have the human element. We need to be making the decisions. This is a tool to really help, and it absolutely does help. But we're going to still need to make decisions.
Thank you so much. And absolutely need to focus on that human element. An elephant. And the elephant in the room, yes. And that is the patient, which is not an elephant, the patient. And as we expected, we are running out of time, but luckily we did have a session earlier this morning with Peter Said, Sharon Lowe, Bas Ibaid and Crystal Barter, who certainly highlighted the patient space far better than we could as the marketing capacity. But we would like to make a brief comment, but we haven't been able to go into it with as much depth. But the patient influence and expectations have certainly changed. How does the marketer of tomorrow broaden their skill set to engage the patient and broader ecosystem in compliant and truly impactful ways? Rob, do you want to start?
Yeah. I can't see where Baz is in the room, but you said something that absolutely resonated really clear with me. When I've looked at market research where you look at what doctors are thinking a patient's going through, and then the same market research project where you find out what the patient's actually thinking, there is a huge divide. So what we did is look at the two aspects of the ecosystem to try and bring them together in a workshop to understand when you have doctors in a room, a patient advocacy group in a room, patients in a room, what are they actually thinking, where is the divide and how can they come together in, we used a shared decision model as the basis of the workshop, and it was really insightful for these KOLs who really walked away saying we will be changing our practice and we may actually change the guidelines.
Drop the mic.
And the end. Darren.
We heard about patient ad boards this morning, and I think that's a fantastic element. Finding ways to compliantly engage with the patient, really understand their pain points, how that marries with the clinician's pain points is key. Listening to the patient throughout that journey from kind of molecule conception, clinical trials, right the way through to launch and through that life cycle is key. Not only the patient ad board, but socially listening, disease state influences, how they all kind of come into play in terms of rounding out that complete patient picture, where someone is on that journey of medical literacy as well, and how we as an industry can really kind of build that out. And as a marketing team, how we can support the clinicians in supporting the patient through that journey is critical to ultimately how the brand is experienced by the patient.
Beck.
I think that we're operating in a world where our patients are becoming more informed than we previously, I think, had. And I think technology is enabling that. So patients are becoming informed on their therapeutic area and disease state. And so I think when we're dealing with more informed patients, that we need to interact with them in a different way than we traditionally have. And I think once again, it goes back to the good old fundamentals of marketing and really ensuring that we need to closely engage with both of our customers, our patients, as well as our healthcare consumers, but it's ensuring that we've got a clear patient journey and we understand all the different touch points that we can have with that patient, as well as all of the different touch points that the healthcare professional has with those patients. And I think that if we have a really clear understanding of that journey, it then allows us obviously to build a strong strategic framework, have very clear priorities, and then we can obviously execute depending and identify the right channel for that particular patient type, as well as the right timing. So once again, big on the marketing fundamentals.
Absolutely. Well, let's summarise it for everybody now. You've had the key takeaways up on the slide for a little while, so hopefully you've got it all memorised now. But the key takeaways are obviously strategic rigour over channel obsession. So the Future Fit marketer is anchored in core marketing fundamentals and uses data to inform but not replace strategic thinking, and prioritise rigour of process and metrics definition over chasing the latest shiny toy. AI is augmentation, not automation. Success lies in leveraging AI to accelerate execution, optimise content. We're retaining and honing human-centric skills. These include deep insight, collaboration, storytelling, emotional connection and collaboration, the human why that technology can't provide. And finally, the ecosystem navigator, which is the marketer's role, has expanded to that of an internal facilitator and conduit. Future success requires to navigate a broader ecosystem, understanding patient influence, and to create flow across functions, not just channels. So this involves developing sophisticated patient and community engagement strategies. Thank you very much. Thank you, panel.